camera, your camera, like center yourself.
Right here?
No, you see how like I can see my background kind of just so yeah.
Oh no, I have it closer up. I don't want to sit
Oh,
back.
you want okay.
Okay, we can start.
What are we
Okay, we're
starting
good to
live?
go. Yep, we're starting now. Hello, everybody. I'm Shane Campfield, autism advocate, photographer, and DJ.
Hi, my name is Jericka Knox, medical student, autism advocate as well. How are you doing? And we'll be presenting on navigating grief with autism and overcoming hurdles. So
Yeah.
really quickly, these are our learning objectives: to define grief, understand the unique grief experiences and recognize them, and support strategies. Evaluate the
Oh,
effectiveness.
Jerica, I can't see the screen. I can't
Oh,
see
sorry.
it. Yeah, you got to share it. Oops.
Oh, sorry. I thought I shared it.
Oh, sorry, guys.
There you go. Okay. So evaluate the
There we go.
effectiveness of the grief support for autistic individuals and hear personal experiences. So what
Mhm.
is grief? Grief is an emotional response to loss. And bereavement is the process that we go through when we experience loss. And mourning is the external way that we reinforce this loss. So if we're talking about cultural norms in terms of religious practices and having funerals or cremations, dance rituals, all of that would be encompassing of mourning. And there's
Right.
different types of grief as well,
Mhm.
including
So we
normal.
have, yeah, normal, the natural process in which psychological, emotional, and psychological is in there twice, psychological, social, and cultural process of loss. And then anticipatory, right before a loss, disenfranchised, grief not acknowledged by society, like having a miscarriage, for example, and then complicated and prolonged due to traumatic events.
Now there's Kubler-Ross. It's a theory that says that essentially there is a linear experience to grief. But what we know is that may not be true. In fact, it may not be linear at all, or you may not experience the different stages.
Right. Okay. Everybody does grieve, whether you're on the autism spectrum or not. Grief is a spectrum in itself. And if you add someone being on the spectrum into that, it's kind of like a double spectrum, like a double whammy, and you just never know what to expect. I myself am on the spectrum. And with that being said, everybody does grief. Grief is a natural part of life that happens to everyone at some point as a response to loss in their life. It can manifest in unique ways for individuals with autism. The journey can present unique challenges, shaped communication. Oh, I'm sorry, shaped by distinct ways of perceiving communication and understanding the world. For me, I lost both mom and dad at a younger age. And both times that I went through that, it was very unique. For example, when my father passed away, I had family members come down from New York to come and take care of me. This is after my mother had passed away 3 years prior. And I did not really feel sad right away. I felt I wanted to be with my friends at school. I was just starting my freshman year at high school. And instead of wallowing in sadness at the house and staying home from school, I decided to go to school and be with my friends. And thank goodness I did, because I had a great support system there. And that's another thing to keep in mind is community when it comes to losing somebody. If you have a great community, then I think that'll go a long way.
So one thing that you can also experience is a non-death as well as disenfranchised death. You can experience this through divorce, pet loss, moving, financial loss, loss of health, and essentially these disenfranchised grief you can feel because somebody else may not have experienced the same thing, or they don't recognize it as a form of grief.
Right. Okay, for those of you out there who are watching or who are going to watch this, feel free to drop a comment in the section box. What does grief feel like to you? If you guys feel comfortable sharing that, what do you guys experience? What can you do to make things better? And what kind of support system do you have? Okay, so we're going to get to my experience. As I said a few minutes ago, I lost both mom and dad at a younger age. What helped? Having a support system, such as a organization that helps those on the spectrum. That's called CARD, Center for Autism and Related Disabilities, here in Orlando. Having friends and having family, talking with my dad after my mother had passed away 3 years prior to him passing, and talking to another family member that came down and stayed with us in the house for a couple of days. That really went a long way, and it really distracted us from the loneliness. Staying active. Like what I said, I did not want to stay in the house and just wallow in the whole sadness. So I decided to get out and keep my mind off of things. And then to wrap it all up on that side, after my dad passed away, I stayed in my routines. Now we're going to get into what did not help. Withholding information about what is happening or what has happened. My father was going through the final stage of liver cancer, and my family members that flew down from New York would not tell me what's going on. I can kind of hint at what was happening, that he was getting sick, but they never broke it to me that he wasn't going to get better. And I really did not grasp that right away. And it took about maybe 2 weeks to really soak that in and digest all that information. My dad, after my mother passed away, spent time with me and just bought me things, kind of like to buy someone's love, to kind of distract my mind from sitting in the sadness. And then that eventually led to him giving excuses for my bad behavior just because he felt died. Mother had passed away. And he did not want to hold me accountable. And then finally, people expecting me to respond in a certain way. But that being said, I had a guidance counselor in high school. I'm not going to throw any names or say anything negative about said person, but just the response to what was going on was kind of inappropriate. She was like, "Oh, you should have come and seen me sooner." I mean, everyone has their own way of grieving, and be understanding in when someone wants to tell you about what they're going through. Because all of us are unique, either being on a spectrum or not. As to reiterate what I was talking about earlier, we all grieve uniquely.
So when I was younger, I'm also just finding out that I'm on the spectrum. And as a child, I lost my father, as well as a family friend's mother and my great grandmother in a short span of time. And so for me, what was helpful was being around my family and friends. We are in Florida. We wound up having to go to New Jersey, and just the support of like doing activities outside of not doing like the funeral arrangements or doing other normal activities so that we could have some memorable moments as we grieve. Having my mom explain death and dying in a way that made sense to me. So it was a sudden death in terms of my dad. He went up for a wedding and he came back down. I mean, he went up for a wedding, and so we were just expecting him to come back down, and that didn't happen. So she had to actually explain that I wasn't going to see him again. And I was approximately 10 years old. So like having to kind of grasp that he wasn't going to come back, and explain why was important for my development. And then participating and attending the funeral so that I had that finality, for, you know, that have that finality in terms of like seeing that he had passed away. And then just like Shane said, going back to my schedule and working on my hobbies that I enjoyed. I was an avid athlete. I danced a little bit. I transitioned from dancing to being an athlete. So that was important to me to keep on going and doing things like that. I shared times with my grandfather. My grandparents were very instrumental in my development in my youth. So that was very important as well. And then using ways that I've communicated best, we did utilize hospice towards the end just to come in and provide, some counseling. So that was a service. And that may not be a service that is in your country, because I know we were talking to varying countries. So, but there are other programs that are similar to that. Let me go back really quickly. So, seeking, actually, so what in my adult life, I feel like as I said, my grandparents were very instrumental in my development. I actually lived with my grandparents. I'm Caribbean American. So what really helped for me was I wound up losing my grandparents, and I just actually lost my last grandparent, my dad's mom. And so because I had such a close relationship with them, it was actually very hard, and I am still processing that part of it. What helped was also still having my family nearby, and working on my hobbies I enjoyed. So trying to get back into gardening, and trying to get back into my work. And I'm still having a hard time doing that, I'll be honest. But like that, like Shane said, it's very important to get back to your normal activities. And having the support of my partner as well. What didn't help is I do feel like at the time I went back to school I tried to explain to my dean at the time about needing a little bit more space and needing a little bit more flexibility. And because we don't look at least in the US, we don't look at grandparents sometimes, and especially in graduate school as a relationship that is important enough to have to take time off. I think it was kind of frowned upon for me to request that time.
Oh, wow.
Like being a little bit more assertive about that, and kind of like explaining. And I think that's a policy that definitely needs to change across the board in all schools, because family structures are so different, right? Or at least requesting accommodations as well. And that is kind of what kind of pushed me into burnout as well, because of the experience I had, like losing my last grandparent. So, what else? And like I said, trying to move on quickly, not taking the time to process it, and seeking appropriate mental health therapies.
Mhm. Okay, let's see if I can read this. It's so small. Okay,
Sorry.
communicate. No, you're good. Communicating death. Language about death should be clear and deliberate. To go back real quickly about what I said with not communicating to somebody about what is happening, please do your best to communicate based on each person's need. If you know the person, maybe give them time to process all that, or maybe say it in a way to where they might understand it. Repeating the information is a good way to do that. Allowing the time to respond and know that it may take longer to process. Like what I said, it was about maybe 2 or so weeks for me to fully grasp what's happening. Questions should always be welcomed, respected, and answered honestly. And then allow the friend or support person to reinforce what you have said or rephrase to help them express the need for additional information.
So, we prepare our rituals in various ways. So the biggest thing with individuals with autism, you definitely want to allow them to observe and acknowledge grief and changes in behavior. Include the individual with autism in the planning stages with whatever they are comfortable with. So oftentimes I was comfortable with actually putting together and making the arrangements. For my grandmother, I put, with the help of my cousin, I put the arrangements together. For my grandfather, it was kind of putting like what is it called? The flowers and everything together. And so that was very helpful for me to be a part of that. Some people may not want that. It it varies and you just kind of have to gauge their comfortability. Um, and then communicate what will happen during the ritual. So kind of ensuring that you kind of go through the flow, talk to individuals about like the process of maybe a funeral or a dance ritual, like if you can predict if it's going to be really loud, if there's going to be a lot of people, and also allowing them to decide if they even want to participate. And then making a schedule for the ritual that they can have in hand. And then also providing choices on how to cope.
Yeah. Okay. Inclusive mental health care. Specialize in trauma-informed care, acknowledging and reducing barriers to inclusive mental health care language, cultural and spiritual. That is a big one, spirituality. That is a big part of what has helped me get through the grief over the and then use of multimodal therapeutics and counseling for grief. I didn't really utilize the counseling part of it, to be honest. I just kind of relied on my family and friends to kind of help me out and kind of transition me through everything. After my father had passed away, there was more that was going to happen on top of that, such as finding a new place to live. If I was going to be moved to foster care system in another state, which is a whole monster in itself. I'm not going to get into that. Um, but yeah, just relying on the family and friends part of, I would say, counseling. Jericka, would you call that counseling?
Counseling. You said
Yeah, that, huh?
I'm sorry, you said you did counseling?
Not really. I did the school guidance counselor, but I only
Oh,
utilized that for a short amount of time. I didn't really rely on the whole professional world to help me through anything as much.
okay. So definitely the guidance counselor, and then some natural supports as well. So, maybe like you said, your friends and your family. Um, there's also in extreme cases, the utilization of medications may be
Mhm.
appropriate. Um, behavioral therapy may be appropriate as well. So
Right.
it just depends, and it should be tailored to the individual, and it also depends on, you know, how severe the interactions may be. They may not be able to, if people are not coping well, then it's something you can consider to do something a little bit more advanced in terms of a therapeutic.
Mhm.
This is, I got the.
And that is it.
References.
Yep, these are our
Okay, we
references.
have. Yep.
Sorry.
Go back for a second.
Let me see.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read them off if that's all right. All right, we have the American Institute of Healthcare Professionals. I don't know if you guys watching this can click on the link, maybe take a picture or highlight it if it's possible, or take a screenshot. Autism and grief support for those on the spectrum. That one really helped. Back in January of this year, I did a presentation on grief at a conference, and that was one of the articles that I recommended for people to check out. So definitely emphasizing that one. Embrace Autism, Autistic Experiences of Grief and Loss, Autistic Grief. Oh, did I lose my place? No, I did not. Autistic Experiences of Grief and Loss. The next one, Autistic Grief is not like neurotypical grief. Thinking Person's Guide to Autism. Harvard Health Publishing, Autism and Grief. Harvard Health Autism, Adult Autism Spectrum Disorder. Ugh. And then National Alliance for Children's Grief, support for grieving children and families. That is one I also emphasize for those who are younger to check out. Or if you know anyone who is going through it at a younger age, I also recommend that article as well.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate.
Okay, is there another one? Oh, nope.
That was it. That was the last one.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I don't know how much time we have here. I can't see my phone. Okay, we have about maybe 3 or so minutes. Okay, so Jericka, let's try to talk really quickly. So what has been the biggest hurdle that you have encountered during the whole grief process?
The biggest hurdle I would say is, I think, processing, right? So like I said, it's very a non-linear thing. So I'll say two things: processing and access to mental health. If, especially in the United States, if you do not have, you know, insurance, or if you are not close enough to find an appropriate therapist, it's something that's very difficult to gain access to at times. So I would say for sure that's one thing. And then like I said, the second time, I process differently. So like, you know, I may go through with my grandmother's funeral, I went through a whole thing. But I don't remember a lot of it. So that may happen. Like, I've experienced memory loss, which I'm usually pretty on point with them. So like between the processing and issues with, like, you know, somatic issues or somatic symptoms, it's kind of challenging at times. What would you say?
Absolutely. My biggest hurdle, let me try to sum it up real quickly. I have about like maybe a minute, 2 minutes at tops. So I would say, well, I don't know if there was really a biggest hurdle, but one of the things was like not telling me what was happening. I know I keep reiterating myself, but these are like the major things that has happened. Maybe try to explain it in a way to where somebody would understand if they're on the spectrum. For me, it was like, okay, when my mother passed away, it was a neighbor of mine that came over to the house, and she said it like, God has called your mom home, you know, using a phrase like that. And again, it really depends on the person that you're dealing with. Am I saying that correctly, Jericka?
I think it's
Right.
unique and individualized.
Right. And me like showing the emotion for all of that did not happen until maybe 2 weeks after. Like just, I don't know, it's really complicated.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
So the
can't
time,
really sum that up into words.
no, the timing can vary from, 2 weeks to a year. So yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. I'm not sure if we can take questions or not.
Yeah, I don't think we had any, but
Okay.
if those of you who are watching this afterwards, feel free to share what you guys
Yeah.
have gone through. Yeah, drop it in the comment section. If you want to ask myself or Jericka any questions, feel free to send us a DM, send us an email.
Right.
And thank you, Autism Connect, for allowing us to be here today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and right now, Jericka and I are at a conference, so that's with all the
Right.
noises
Right.
in the
Sorry.
background. So
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about all that, guys. And we're
Right.
doing a presentation later on today, so wish us luck. Friday the 13th.
Awesome. Yes, definitely follow us on social media. We will give Autism Connect all of our information. If you have any questions or if you want us to speak at another engagement, please let us know.
Mhm.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.